Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor nor a stock analyst, just somebody interested in personal finance and who's been looking at the stock market actively since the big collapse of 22% in one day in 1987 when I was in high school. So I was watching a video, an interview with a investor from Canada. They mentioned the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce as one of their holdings. This is actually a bank that used to be nearby in my hometown back in the 70s. They had a branch here in Oregon. So I thought I'd look it up just for a lark. I tend not to invest too much in banks. They don't make nearly as much money compared to other companies, growth stocks. But let's take a look. It's at $81.50. It pays a dividend of 3.46%. Now, you need to be cautious about that because I've held some Canadian stocks that I've gotten paid dividends in my Roth IRA, and the Canadian government takes like 20% as tax. Now, if it's in a regular account, you can use that percentage that they take as an offset against any American tax that you might have to pay on those dividends or gains. But if it's in a Roth, you can't do that, although, it's not a whole lot of money. Anyway, something to keep in mind. Today, Thursday, it was up about a 0.5%. It's a pretty big move. In 5 days, up 1.8%. 1 month, kind of choppy, barely down. 6 months, you're up 35%. That's not too bad. Year to date, up 29%. 1 year, you're up about 30%. And then the past 5 years, you're up 108.94%. Pretty good. Plus, you're making some dividend. And then max, going back almost 30 years, you're up 446%. I think that this is roughly about a 15-16% compounded rate of return. You do see that there's been periods of time, like here, when you could have put $53 in 2007, then you'd have to wait to 2021 to get back to that. So it can go sideways for a while. It's going up. Will it peak here? Is today the peak? Will it start going down for a year after today, after tomorrow, like it did here? You have a couple drops there, kind of drops down there, drops down, a fair amount. You're going from 64 down to 37. That's almost a 50% haircut there. Something to keep in mind. But it doesn't look like the worst stock ever. One thing that I wanted to show, so I'll have a little bit of information from Wikipedia, but this stock was a combination of this company was a combination of a couple other bank companies. And so let's look at some of the banknotes that they used to issue. So Canada, up until the 1930s, independent banks issued banknotes in addition to the Bank of Canada, which is owned by the federal government of Canada. And so the Canadian Bank of Commerce and the Imperial Bank of Canada were merged to become the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And if you could see here, these are the dates when these various other banks were merged into those banks. And then in 1961, these two were merged into that. And let's take a look at some other banknotes. So isn't that beautiful? Very characteristic. This is from 1917. Of the late teens and early 20s, this kind of might even call it an Art Nouveau style to some degree. Real beautiful. Take another look there. I'll finish up here in a minute. I just thought I'd share some of these kind of beautiful. I mean, wouldn't you love to be able to use these in circulation? Something now that is so beautiful. And then here's some from the Imperial Bank of Canada. So the other one. These mainly have pictures of people on them. Let's look at the 1920s. They may not show them. Okay, we'll look at those. Anyway, really beautiful. So I'm going to end here. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. What are your thoughts? Have you ever heard of the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce? Have you ever invested in any Canadian bank stocks? What are your thoughts on a possible interest rate change by the Federal Reserve in the United States? How that might impact Canada and the direction of this stock. Love to hear from you. I read all the comments and eventually I respond to them. We'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.